Hey there, this is Therese Skelly, and I am so excited that you are going to be listening to an episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. Do you like those two words? Fiercely Brilliant. My hypothesis is that you are here for a reason. We all are. Our souls have led us on journeys that have very often taken some twists and turns, and sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes there's struggle and there's loss and there's challenge, and in the middle of that, there's always a way out. And it's those times that often lead us into our great life and work. So you're going to hear stories in these episodes of myself and other beautiful people that share the journey. They share how they got to the place where they're standing, working in their brilliance, and being the powerful leaders that they are. So stay tuned and enjoy this episode. Hey, this is Therese of ThereseSkelly.com, and this is another episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. I love these shows because not only do I get to share my wisdom, but I get to bring on my really cool friends and colleagues. And today, oh my gosh, you're going to love my lady today. So I want to welcome Priscilla. You keep your maiden name, but you are a married woman. So Priscilla Stephan. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I saw the married name and I'm like, nope, she doesn't use it. So it's not her. Anyway, so my dear beloved Priscilla, we have known each other for lots and lots of years. We've seen each other grow through lots of changes. and so I want to just welcome you and tell the listeners, what do you do now? Like what's your work? Because it's a really cool, divinely downloaded business you have. So
yes, thank you so much for having me, Therese. Hi, gorgeous ladies and amazing gents that might be listening. I'm Priscilla Stephan, and I would say that to encapsulate the essence of what I do is I help conscious leaders, entrepreneurs really live their purpose through their business, and to develop their body of work, to do their soul's work through that. That just lights me up. I think everyone has amazing gifts, and I want to help them acknowledge them and share them in a way that changes and brightens up the world, right?
Nice.
And yes, and so I help service-based professionals really grow their businesses, do their soul's work, and not compromise their health, their sanity, or burn out in the process.
Yeah, we tend to do that, don't we?
Yeah, I did it twice, and it was, as you know, the second time I was out flat on my back pretty much for about a year to 18 months, and it was hard. But it's good because we hopefully learn, right, from our mistakes, right, from that trying to push one more time and not really trust ourselves. And so, yeah, I help these kinds of amazing entrepreneurs get their soul's work out into the world and to do it in a way that feels truly aligned to them. And yes, so the last four years ago, I developed a body of work. It was channeled in this thing called the Akashic Records that helps you tap into a person's soul or the soul of anything that has consciousness. And I developed a body of work on what's now called Soulfluent leadership archetypes, really getting you fluent in the language of your soul's contribution on the planet and what does that mean. And so really kind of rolling that out this year in particular through these leadership roundtables and help people understand their leadership archetype and how to align their business with these archetypes that are incredible ecosystems of alignment, possibility, and joy and profit.
So let's go back a little bit, because I met you a lot of years ago and you weren't doing that work.
Oh no.
and so Priscilla is the, like, okay, weren't you like a health coach or something? Like she's been over here and then over here and then over here, and I don't even know before we met, but it takes courage, I think, to basically burn the ships, to listen to the wisdom inside and just go, oh, I'm supposed to be teaching that. And I know for you said 4 years ago, I birthed this work. I know you and we were walking on the beach in La Jolla and you were like, I don't know how to talk about it. And a lot of people would have given up. Or a lot of people would have said, oh, well, screw it, I'll just go back, or I'll just do it. That used to sell. And so talk about the journey, love. Like when you get the thing you're supposed to do, you had a very long gestation period. So how do you stay in faith with that? Like, what do you do to honor that? Because it's beautiful now. Like you've got some really nice pieces.
Yeah. So nothing about my journey career-wise has been easy. So I've gone through 3 major career changes to begin with, even before I hit health coaching or coaching at all. I did environmental work for 10 years. That was my graduate degree. Burned out from that. Started a fashion accessories business. 3 years, that wasn't it. Did 5 years of event planning to figure out what I was going to do with my life. So many dark nights of the soul. And then kind of came upon, IIN and the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and this health coaching program that I thought, oh, great. I have 30 years of emotional eating shit. Like I can eat a whole cake. I can eat 3 pints of Haagen-Dazs if you let me in one sitting. Like I'm not kidding. That was, and I was obsessed with every minute count. I mean, it was just, it was hard. And so I said, well, this will be good for me. And then it turns out that you can also become a certified health coach for that program. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a cool idea. Yeah. It was a good starting point. And then, because I'd been fired twice the year before, humiliating, horrible New York banks, and so it was hard. And so I started as a health coach, and sometimes you just need to start until you can get to the next part, right?
Absolutely.
And so I helped women with emotional eating for 3 years, but found out that what we were really talking about was career, how they could live their purpose, and how the reasons that they were eating and overeating or whatever was because they were misaligned with the work they were doing, or they were overgiving and all that stuff. I couldn't give a shit about talking about kale or anything like that. I mean, it's so important, but it's not my.
It wasn't your thing. Yeah. Right.
And so I was just waiting for the next thing. And then about 3 years in, I came across this thing called the Akashic Records. And I was like, oh my God, that is the missing piece.
Yeah.
And I got certified in it through the Soul Journeys method. And then I did 100 free sessions because I was so like, oh my God, I'm going to give people insight, And then I realized that I was really good at business, guidance. And I sucked at the medical stuff, hated the relationship stuff. And so that was just like, So I rebranded to do intuitive business and helping people really live their purpose through their business, through this soul guidance, which really gives you so much alignment.
Right.
And then about a year and a half in, my guides were like, oh, just download this tiny little book. 165 pages later and a body of work later that the little fuckers didn't tell me about. I was like, what the hell do I do with this? And now think about it. September 2016. The world was very different then. I had never heard of leadership. I didn't know. I didn't want to touch it. I had no desire. I mean, to me, leadership meant a stuffy old man that was going to, and that I had to know all the answers. And I'm like, and then archetypes. I mean, I'd known about archetypes through Carolyn Mace, in her Sacred Contracts book and all that. But I'm like, I literally had to ask my husband, how do you explain an archetype to someone? I was like, I don't understand. Like, I was like, it was
Hold on. You didn't ask for this, right? It sounds like you didn't go asking.
I didn't consciously ask for none of this. All right. That was another major tantrum. Like, why? Why? Clearly my soul must have known something that I didn't know.
Right.
And so my husband was like, our archetypes are a way to access energy. So I was like, I can start with that.
I like that language. Yeah, sure.
But then I'm like, archetypes are going to be too woo for people. They're not going to understand it. It's too complicated. It's not easy. Like there's nothing easy and not complex about this. And so I had a complete and utter meltdown. Because I'm like, how do I market this? How do I explain? I don't understand this.
Right.
I don't want this. And so I stepped away for 18 months because I couldn't breathe. I literally was.
Was that the time when you were sick too?
It was just before, and then and then I got really, really burned out because nothing seemed to progress. Business wise, I was transitioning. I couldn't figure out what the next step was, and I knew the next step was the leadership stuff, but it was triggering every trauma point I had, and I couldn't handle it.
Now, were you tempted to just go, screw it, I'll just go back to this?
I couldn't.
Okay.
Of course, it crossed my mind, but I knew deep down in my soul that I was given this for a reason. Mm-hmm. And that stubborn part of me just knew that if I didn't see it through, I would regret it forever.
Well, I think that's also a really good thing to punctuate here. Because sometimes it's not like, oh, perfect, I'll take that little formula and it all works. Sometimes, if you look at even in the Bible, it's like, they're like, what, who, me? I don't want that. Like when we get the big call, we get the big body of work. our small selves are like fighting, fighting, fighting. And yet you have the wisdom to know, but this is soul work and I got to figure this out.
And it's fucking brilliant. I mean, the work is brilliant. I mean, every word on those 165 pages is not mine. None of it is mine.
It's all channeled.
It's all very dense material. And so I knew that, and I also knew that the money and the contribution, everything I wanted was in this. Actually, this is a book within a trilogy. And so I just knew that the money was in here too, just to be blunt about it. But it took a while for me to work through it. And now I asked the guys, I said, what was missing for me, I think sometimes what really helps in a spiritual journey is context. Where am I on this journey? Is this like the end? Am I stuck here? Like on the dark night of the soul where it lasted at least a year? I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? Why did this happen to me? What do I do with this? Right. And so now I have like there are 7 layers to the ascension level to becoming a new leader, starting with what you said. Here's the call. Oh, there's an awakening, initiation. Oh, but me. And then denial. No, that's not for me. I don't want it. And then identity crisis, dark night of the soul. Oh, I can see better. I can see the changes. Oh, ta-da. But, I had no context. So I thought there was something I couldn't understand. My logical brain without context could not understand where I was.
Yeah.
So it was hard, but I also have this motto in my life. It's just how I'm designed, that with anything I really want long enough, if I just hang on long enough, the next step will present itself. And I just knew that would be the case. I just had to, God, it was excruciating. It was so hard. I just knew it was going to turn around at some point, a person, an insight. And then I got really, adrenal fatigue, panic attacks, hypothyroidism. I was on my back and I couldn't touch the business. I couldn't think about anything. And that was 18 months, which was hard, right? Because as a pusher, doer, I couldn't.
Right. But do you see now the divine order in that? Do you see the reason for that?
Yeah, but
I know it's hard.
Because time is coming, but now the time that I'm rolling out with this in good order, like knowing that I'm not going to go back to old patterns, and also like the collective timing of this work around leadership could not be more primed. That was the other problem, is that when I got this work, I'm like, I'm going to tell people to go and lead with joy. They're going to fucking shoot me in the head.
Right.
I'm going to talk about archetypes. Like, people want like a 6-figure formula in minus 2 days. Like, who wants steps? So it was hard. But now I can see how the timing came together, and I have a much deeper understanding and a readiness and an openness to be curious. And the other piece, which I think not only applies to this business, but any idea, is that I had to find a way to look at my role with the work that was going to work. Like if I'm not the one that's going to be the one providing the answers or being all perfect, so then how can I frame this and position my role and my delivery in it that feels authentic to me? Does that make sense?
I mean, yes, but clarify.
So for example, for me, when it comes to, because I had this idea that being a leader meant that I needed to have all the answers and to have a certain persona in order to have the credibility and the authority to be talking about leadership, which frankly was a topic I never had been ever touched. So I'm like, how is anyone going? So imposter syndrome was, flaring at this point. And so I realized, okay, so if I can't stand in integrity and say, I'm a leader, I've accomplished these things, or I know these things, so then how can I authentically talk about this in a different way that's not what I've imagined I would have to be? And then I thought, well, guess what? Here's what it is then. It's a framework to help people understand themselves and to ask questions so that then they can uncover for themselves the kind of leader they want to be. I'm not here to tell them anything. I'm here to help them and give them frameworks to help them understand themselves. That felt authentic. That is aligned. That's the truth of the work. And so sometimes it's not that there's something wrong with the work or the what. Sometimes it's the way our relationship to the work and how we explain it that feels authentic and genuine to us. Does that make sense?
Perfect. Perfectly said. I just think of all the people that get the ideas and either they're seduced with the marketers that are giving them the 6-figure formulas, because it's like, oh, fast pass to cash, right? Or they don't have people in their life supporting, going, of course you should listen to that download. Of course you should take time off. Of course you should burn your business right now. Like, what do you say to people that are where you were, going, and I love the contextualization of it, but what do you say to people that might be going, I totally relate, what do I do?
Well, take a deep breath, first of all, and then listen to your inner wisdom, right? There is wisdom to what you know is true.
Okay.
And then get the support that you need, whether it's around the self-care, around guidance to really move you forward, you know, and to be patient, you know, and there might be some internal reconstruction, reconfiguring. There might be some divine timing that's still out of your control.
Right.
And then focus on what you can control and what you know to be true.
Nice. I also would say to trust the divinity that gave you what you got. Right? Like, and the signs are when you said, I would not have asked for this, but I can't not do it. You know?
It was tempting, but when I knew, you know, as the person that got this material, even though I can't understand, as I read it on the page, I'm like, this stuff is truly brilliant. It would be a shame not to. And honestly, my ego wouldn't want me to see anyone else put it out in the world. And maybe I am designed to do it, even though oftentimes I'm like, really? Why me? You know, there could be somebody better, smarter, better marketer or whatever, but it's me.
It's you. That's right. That's right. Listen, like Elizabeth Gilbert in her book, Big Idea, basically says an idea will come to you, and if you don't act on it, it goes to somebody else. And so you were like just greedy enough in a good way, right? That you were like, but seriously, like 4 years. And I know you've invested with me, you've invested in lots of other coaches. You have really been all about this. So when you see no ROI and you're still in the spending and the doing, and there's no like, how do you connect? How do you stay? Because I want you to concretize it as much as you can.
Well, a lot of my life and the business is guided through the records themselves, through the guides. And so there was that knowing and constant reaffirmation. You just got to keep going.
Okay.
You just got to keep going, right? You know, it's coming, right? It's coming. This is the next hurdle. You know, I got married. That took a while. I was moving. There was a lot of life stuff.
Right.
There needed to be room for that, you know, because the business doesn't happen in a vacuum either, right? Or the body of work. And then I got, you know, really burned out. And so that needed to be the next step. So it's kind of like, well, what is that next step? That's what's being asked of you now, life or business or health, relationship. And so I think sometimes it's patience. And I just had this knowing that I couldn't let it go, right? That I've been guided to this point. It felt like a shit show most of the time anyway. So what do I have to lose at this point, except not knowing how far it can go? And I knew that it was not a ticket, but I knew that this was the path to everything I'd wanted. So I had to just keep going and just realize, okay, what's this next step? What's just that one next step?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, just configuring, like thinking about, well, what, and then what's the step after this? You know, what might that be like? Is it hiring someone? Is it drafting something? Is it, you know, and just feeling into just trusting my inner knowing, kind of to navigate. Also, all the while knowing, and I was clearly told, look, this isn't going to happen in a flash. You know, you just have to, patience is going to have to be your ally. I was given the damn bamboo analogy. I think bamboo takes like 7 years, and then all of a sudden it shoots like crazy.
Right, underground, yeah.
Like,
you see nothing for 7 years. It goes down, and then
that was the analogy. And I was like, oh hell no. Really? So and then for someone that really appreciates speed, I had to learn the art of patience.
So, you know, part of the work I do, and I know you do as well, but is the embodiment. You have to become the steward of the work you're doing. And people don't like to hear that. You know, they like about the doing part, they like the action stuff, and you even talked about rejiggering things on the inside, and it literally is who you have to become. So FYI gang, if you're listening, strap on, because if you have a big body of work, a big mission, if you have a big thing you're here to do, the person that you are right now might ask to be elevated a little bit, right? The old beliefs fly away. So for you, love, how are you different after, this was a very long, you and elephants, right? Like years. It's a very long gestation. So what's been the gift for you? How are you different as a result of just walking through this process? Because that's, to me, the magic is who you get to be as well.
It is. And I think now at this point, I can start to actually see the difference. I think that, and part of it even happened this year through really building out the foundational elements of the work, so I can feel confident in sharing its principles and having offerings that really resonate for people and that sell and help people transform, is that first, self-care is has to be my well-being is number one, like really on a whole other level. Making sure to enjoy my life as I go. And also I would say, confidence is a big part of it. I think that there is confidence that comes from sharing the work, and seeing the work, knowing it gets results, but there's confidence in knowing that you've made it through the hardest parts, right? There's a certain level of, there's so much resilience and perseverance. I think that those are anything I've ever wanted, I've gotten through that feeling of, I know what I want. It seems it's going to take a while, but if I just keep going, I want it badly enough that I'm just going to hang on.
That is really nice to know about yourself. Like, that's a super important thing, that you can make it happen.
I mean, I got married later in life. I mean, it took, God, that's a whole other show, an episode, like of what that took, and so business, money and business now are my edges, as I've gone through the health part. So I would say that there's a lot of confidence now in what I can accomplish and my ability. And also I realize that I've got good instincts for where I'm going, for my insights in terms of the work and how I want it to go. And what I would say mostly now is that I'm much more discerning in the pace of what's for now and what's for later. And also the greatest difference is there's a lot less proving energy and a lot more contributing energy.
That is huge. Huge. Yes. So the moral of the story is, if you just say yes to the wild ride that life is asking you, you get the benefits in the end, and you get to contribute, right? So you get to become a different person as well.
True. That's one of the 5 core principles of Soulfluent leadership. Say yes. Say
yes. There we go. Okay. So I love chatting with you, and it's really nice to see you grow.
Thank you.
Because you have just grown so much. Oh my gosh. And so first of all, how do folks find you? If people want to hear about the Soulfluent leadership, like, what's the first step? How could they get access to that?
Yeah, the first step would be to take the 5-minute free quiz to identify your leadership archetype. That's the archetype with the dominant energy you've been leading with up until this point. That's priscillastephan.com/quiz. There's also a monthly leadership roundtable, which is amazing if you want to just go much deeper in terms of how to build your business in alignment with your archetype and the archetype that will move you forward. Sometimes the quiz archetype is different from the one that's your one now. Yeah, oftentimes it actually is. And that's just an intimate group of 6 women. And then, and if you want to reach out to me, you can do that through the website or at priscilla@priscillastephan.com. And I'm very open and accessible. If you're looking in that space of how can I grow my leadership, how can I make a bigger difference where everyone wins, not just, for me, but the collective wins. And I can do it in a way that feels really aligned and really a representation of who I really am. This work is really designed for that.
That's fabulous. And just thanks for sharing your journey. It's like, I think we're in such an instant gratification mode. I think COVID is now breaking some of that in our lives. But just to hear a person that has persevered when seemingly it would have been way easier to stop, and you persevered. Because I want people, we set intentions before we do these calls, and the intention is somebody listening is not going to give up on their dream. Somebody listening is going to go, oh, wait. Okay, that was given to me. That is mine to do. And then, the context. I love that. Once you say the stages again, because that was a cool distinction. Can you just speak
Yeah, there was kind of, in my case, the awakening, the aha came when I was asked to download the book, and that might come in some variation, an event, as a comment or something. there's the initiation, the awakening. Then there's the denial. Oh, me? No, I don't think it's for me. Maybe somebody else. Then there's kind of like the identity crisis of sorts, when there's really the dark night of the soul. Oh my God, everything I thought worked does not work. Who am I? Do I really want to do this? What do I want for my life? And then you start, then the light begins to emerge, and you're like, oh, I can see some new changes. I'm feeling different. I can see a new path. And then from this slight restructuring, there's really like, oh, there's kind of a settling in. And then there's really, and I don't remember all the stages, but the 7th is where you're really like, okay, I'm a different person. I know who I am now. And those really, it's a shift in patterning, in habits, and how you show up ultimately, and a clearer vision of who you are, where you want to go, and why that matters.
Nice. But the caveat is you can slow down, you can take breaks, but you never give up. That's a caveat, right?
No, I'm a stand for people living their dreams, because your dreams will change the world.
Woo. And with that, I think that's a beautiful place to end.
I agree.
So thank you so much, my love. I adore hanging out with you.
Me too.
I'm really proud of your work. You did it, got it out. Baby's birthed. It's beautiful. And take the quiz. I'm a mystic, by the way. So I want to hear what you're.
So am I. I'm a mystic too.
Of course we are. We got that thing, that vibe.
Of course.
So, all right, guys, if you like this episode, leave a review. That's always super helpful. And feel free to reach out to Priscilla if you have questions, or me if you want any more information about Priscilla. Everything is in the show notes. So, peace and blessings. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, I really appreciate you listening to that last episode, and I would love to get to know you a little bit more and to get to connect with you on a deeper level. And here's what I suggest. I've got a Facebook group that corresponds with the content of these podcasts. It's called Fiercely Brilliant Women in Business with Therese Skelly. So if you just search Facebook, Fiercely Brilliant with Therese Skelly, you'll find the group. It's a really nice group. It's a small group, and I'm super active in it. So each week we have a lot of supportive conversations. I share a lot of resources. I do a lot of coaching on the spot, and I would love to have you join me there. So if you like the vibe of this podcast and you want to hang out with a pretty darn cool community of women, join us at Fiercely Brilliant on Facebook with Therese Skelly. Alrighty, peace and blessings, and I hope to see you in the group. Bye now.